This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
All right, Place to Be Nation, we're back for the Survivor Series reaction show, and what a show this was in many, many, many ways. I'm your host, Chris Zellner, joined as always by my co-host, the Oracle of the WWE, Devon Hales. And Devon, we've seen some pay-per-views this year and all over the years, and this one's going to go down as one of the more memorable ones in recent times. Wow, that's all I can say, huh?
Yeah, definitely. This was kind of in some ways, I think it was kind of a tale of two shows. We'll get to it, and I'll kind of wrap around at the end. But the first half was kind of a mixed bag, and it was, from the looks of it on social media, a lot of people thought it was bad. And then the second half happened, and it was pretty darn good, and at the least had a lot of interesting things happen. So, this was this show had, I think, everything, for sure. For sure.
Oh, yeah. And we're about to get into it as, this is a theme where in the past, the past couple of years at least, they've made Survivor Series into basically the only show that Raw and SmackDown wrestle each other. They basically taking the place of Battleground,
right?
In so many ways, and we had that again this year, and this year's been different because they put all that effort into building up Crown Jewel. That Survivor Series, just happens to happen right after that, and there's no build, and then they decide to change the main matches. One of them by they had to do, and then the other one by out of nowhere, which the two main events of the show, and it's just weird that we had a Survivor Series with just basically no build at all. Other than the angle they shot on Raw with all the women. The women had the most build out of anybody.
They did, yep.
Because every other match was cold.
Yep.
Except for the cruiserweights, which we'll talk about. But every other match was cold on this show. So let's get this show on the road. Pre-show was a 2-hour pre-show. That's basically a whole bunch of nothing. They did do an angle where they had Natalya and Ruby Riott get into a fight, and Captain Alexa kicking them off the Raw team, which eventually, shockingly, the 2 spots went to Bayley and Sasha Banks, which of course they wrestled on Raw Monday, and they got attacked, so Alexa wouldn't have to choose either one of them to be on the show, be on the team. And then, of course, what happens? They're on the team anyway. So, what are your thoughts on this situation? You think they did the right thing by putting Bayley and Sasha instead of Natalya and Ruby? Or
it was really bizarre that they did. I mean, I don't really know why they did that. I don't really understand why they did that. Like, here's the thing. I understand, like, the idea of, like, Alexa getting mad and kicking Ruby and Natalya off, because they can't get along and then their own separate personal feud or whatever. Like, I'm fine with that, but, like, I don't know, like, they did it all, like, it doesn't make sense after they did the angle where, on Raw, where Sasha and Bayley had this hard-fought match and then got beat up, and then Ruby was announced as the 5th member. It was weird. Like, they just went into this, like, almost like a full circle of just doing weird, just angles and twists and turns just for the heck of it. I don't know, just because they could.
Would this have been better as a way to introduce 2 new people?
Yeah, I think there's always,
because last year, let's not forget, was it last year Survivor Series that the Riot Squad made their debut?
It was the Monday after Survivor Series. Because they had the Riot Squad come in on SmackDown and they had Absolution come in on Raw. On the same week. So it was Survivor Series week. So you're right about that, but it was after the pay-per-view.
So yeah, they set a precedent in bringing in new people,
right?
So they could have brought new people on the show.
And I'm sure you'll bring it up here soon. We've already got our first Lars vignette. So I mean, you know,
Yeah.
they're already, you
Well,
know,
there's a few people need to be coming up.
oh yeah, for sure, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean this could have been something to bring up. A couple of the women from NXT, because God knows they got a deep roster down there right now. So it could have been a way to introduce two new women to the show, which is needed to get some depth.
Right.
So which will probably happen anyway. So who knows? But anyway, it got Bailey and Sasha on it, which is funny because Sasha was on Twitter, having some interesting tweets about not being on the show,
Typical
and then
Sasha behavior.
she's on the show.
Yeah.
So hey, worked out for her.
Yep.
All right, you mentioned Lars Sullivan. There was a Lars Sullivan vignette during the pre-show and during the main show. So he's coming up. I gotta think he's going to SmackDown. Would you agree? Because I mean, Raw is just too many other big guys. He stands up more on SmackDown.
He's probably got to go on Smack. I mean, like, yeah. I think there's the Raw Haas division is pretty loaded.
I'll say.
I think the only Haas's, I mean, you've got Big E and Killian Dane, but they're in tag teams, and then you've got Samoa Joe, but Lars, I think he would thrive better on SmackDown, in the current environment for sure.
Absolutely, and working against guys like Jeff Hardy and possibly Rey Mysterio,
yes.
So veteran baby faces.
Absolutely.
Would definitely help him out too. So we'll see where he ends up going. And then again, like you said, there's probably gonna be others from NXT coming up too, which is they need to.
Yep.
They need to get some of that clutter out of there. All right. Next we have the pre-show match, which has become quite a point of contention after the pre-show and the main show, because it wasn't even basically acknowledged as a part of the results and when Michael Cole basically explained it, well, this is the pre-show. So we had the tag team Survivor Series match, where SmackDown you had New Day, you had the Colognes, you had the Good Brothers, you had Sanity, and you had the Usos up against Raw's teams, the Revival, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. I'm trying to think who else here real quick. Lucha House Party was a part of that. Who am I missing?
The Ascension.
The Ascension was in there. That's right. Very shortly, yes.
Oh gosh, is there somebody?
And B Team.
Yeah, there you go.
B Team, yes. So 10-team match. This was a sloppy ass fucking match, but you know what? It was entertaining as hell. It was entertaining as hell. The guys that looked the best in this was the Revival. New Day looked good, of course, doing their stuff. But the Revival and the Usos, I mean, that whole end run there made me want to see a big series between these two teams. And also reminded me, man, the Usos are just doing nothing on SmackDown. They need to be on Raw so bad to be part of that, to be the anchor of the Raw Tag Division. And it was funny. I made the joke on Twitter before the match started, when they had New Day introduce all the teams on SmackDown, just to remind people that yes, these teams still are on the roster because they're never on television.
I told my brother Dustin, we're watching together, and I said, literally, for someone who watches every WWE TV match, I'm pretty sure the Colognes have been on SmackDown twice this year. Literally twice. That's not a joke. That's not an exaggeration. And and that's it. They haven't even had vignettes. Nothing. Like they've wrestled twice on the show. That's it.
Because what hurts all the talent on SmackDown and can't get on the main show is there is no B show for them to work, because 205 Live is taped before SmackDown.
Correct. Yep.
Like Raw, you have main event, so all the people that can't get on Raw, they're on main event, so they're actually wrestling on a television show that people can watch.
Yep.
And that's why the Raw, all the Raw teams, they all are known because they're either on Raw, not every week, but maybe every other week, and people are seeing their stuff. Gallows and Anderson can't get on SmackDown. Sanity's just been lost, pretty
Yep.
much. Hell, the Usos, up until recently was not even on television regularly. So, yeah, exactly. That's a problem. That's definitely a problem for those guys. But anyway, fun match. I love seeing Grand Metalik eliminate Luke Gallows. I thought it was great. But yeah, Chad Gable and Bobby Roode. I'll talk about them real quick. When they were put together as a team, I thought, well, this is just odd, and just two guys that you wouldn't expect to team up together. But I think they've come to embrace it. They got some really strong double team combo moves, and it looks like they may have something with these guys. So, what's your thoughts on all the guys in the match and how everything went?
Yeah, I thought the first match or the first half of the match was kind of bad. Like, not as it was just kind of like no one, you know what I mean? Like all those like forgettable teams because they don't book their tag divisions well at all, or or at least not on a consistent basis like ever, really in the history of the company. Um, so I thought the first half was kind of like, just kind of there, bland, kind of bad. Um, Although it was interesting, they did like a little mini angle with like Callisto getting hurt, and then Metalik having to take his spot. Um,
Yeah.
and Corey Graves was of course being Corey Graves and complaining about it. But yeah, I thought once the match got going down to the final four teams, New Day and Usos versus Revival and Gable and Roode, I thought it was really really fun. Definitely sloppy, especially on Scott Dawson's part. I love Scott Dawson, but he looked terribly sloppy tonight. Like he did the tope and like his toe caught, like kind of caught the bottom rope, and like he tried the tornado DDT and almost fell. Like it wasn't even bad. Like it was just like he was going all out and doing all this crazy stuff, and like it wasn't always hitting. But yeah, it was definitely a fun match in the second half. My biggest question is how the hell did Sanity get eliminated? Because the pizza guy showed up right, and I turned around and they were gone.
I'm trying to
still a mystery to me,
because they were eliminated after the B team.
Right. Yep.
I think Killian Dane was pinned.
But was it like the Ascensions like Fall of Man or something? That's kind of what I've been gathering, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
I wasn't paying attention. There were some quick eliminations there, and I really wasn't paying attention because I was still watching some of the football going on, and I happened to look and I was like, "Oh, there's Sanity's gone."
Yeah,
so
that's the great mystery of Survivor Series 2018. How the hell did Sanity get eliminated?
Well, that shows you though about how they felt about these teams.
For sure, yeah. But I thought once they got down to the final four teams, it was really good, and the dive sequence was great. The German suplex was like was absurd, totally insane. I've really come to enjoy Roode and Gable as a team as well, even with Scott Dawson's sloppiness, which I think was actually pretty entertaining. That final showdown with the Usos was great. They did the old school fans are going to kill me for not knowing the name of the superplex splash spot. What's it called?
Power and Glory spot.
Yeah, the Powerplex, I guess is what it was, right?
Yeah.
That was great. They've done that before, but that match was and they did the Steiners Bulldog spot too.
From a power bomb position.
Yeah, that match got real good in the last 10 minutes, and I definitely enjoyed it. Usos did the Roman tribute again on the finish, which was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the first half was definitely a mess because like we talked about before, these teams aren't being used, and even the ones on Raw that are being used are on main event most weeks. So, people just didn't care in the crowd. But once they got down to the final four teams, it got pretty exciting. So I
Yeah.
think it was safely a good match by the end of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was entertaining for sure. All right. Excuse me. The main show opens with the women's Survivor Series match, where Team SmackDown featured Carmella, Mandy Rose, who took the fifth spot on the pre-show magically. Sonya Deville, Asuka, Naomi against Raw's Bayley, Sasha Banks, Nia Jax, Mickie James, and Tamina. And boy, Nia Jax had the molten heat here. Woof! They did not like her at all for injuring their Becky Lynch. And I mean, it's going to work out for them in the end for everybody. Becky became a monster babyface off of that issue. With Nia punching her in the face. Nia's heat is going to be pretty amazing now, so she's going to capitalize on it. But it's tough. It's a tough situation when you have somebody really injure somebody like that, and everybody ends up getting rewarded for it in a way. It's weird. It's a weird deal. We'll talk about that as we go along. But the match, I tell you, I mean, the women had their own way, and we had it here in this match. A lot going on, not always the cleanest and the crisp, but boy, they were putting it out there, and they were really taking it to each other. And I thought they did a good job for everything they were doing. Yeah, Naomi getting eliminated quick was interesting. By Tamina, no less. Of course, Carmella got Tamina. Mandy got Mickie James with help from Sonya Deville. Of course, she stole Sonya Deville's win, so you had that. Bayley pinning her best friend Carmella. Then Sasha went over Mandy. Then we had the double countout spot where Bayley and Sonya got eliminated, leaving Nia, Sasha, and Asuka. And Asuka had a chance to shine in this match. She needed it. It's been a while. So Sasha had Asuka ready to go. Then Nia threw threw Sasha off the ropes and got an Asuka knocked her out. Then Nia dropped the big leg numerous times on Asuka and got the pin on her. And as the fans just went molten. So I think considering what's going on, it's definitely the right finish. And yeah, that's the women's match. So, what's your thoughts on the match and the whole Nia Jax situation in general?
Match was pretty good. I liked this match. I thought everybody had. I thought they did a good job of letting everybody shine. I think the one person who really didn't get to shine was Naomi. Of all people. She was,
Yeah, because she was gone
exactly.
in seconds.
She was gone in seconds. I mean, because at least Tamina got the pin, but Carmella got the shine. She got the dance off segment. Sonya and Mandy got tons of shine, which I was happy to see. And Sasha and Bayley were the workhorses and got nice shine. Sasha and Asuka had a great showdown for about 5 minutes. They have great chemistry. They had that awesome match earlier this year on Raw, back in January. They still have good chemistry, and I liked their little one-on-one competition before Nia came back in to finish things up. But anytime Nia was in the ring against anybody, the heat was off the charts, and people were chanting Mandy's name in a face-off with Nia. And Mandy Rose is popular with a lot of Florida fans, but she's not necessarily someone who's going to get cheered every week, and that just shows you how much heat Nia has when people are chanting Mandy Rose's name.
Well, she's a heel too.
Yep, absolutely. So it was a lot of fun when Nia was in there. Just to work off the heat. Mickey, I thought was a really good veteran. She got to have some nice exchanges and sequences with some of the other ladies. Um, I really liked how well they protected Sonya Deville. They really protected her. She basically got a pin. I mean, Mandy stole the pin from her, but she basically got an elimination, and she was counted out in the match. And that's definitely a way of protecting someone. So I'm interested in hoping to see what they do with her, because I think that she's one of the most improved women on the roster in terms of in ring, and she's gotten to be pretty darn good in the ring, and I'm hopeful that they do some interesting things with her in the future, and I think that that's a good sign that she was protected tonight. I'm glad that that seems to be the case, that they might do something with her. Like you said, Oscar got to shine, which is she desperately needed that. She's still super over. I mean, on SmackDown during the segment with Becky, fans were going nuts to pick up to pick her to face Ronda. So she's still maintained her overness. Part of that is Oscar's somebody like a Daniel Bryan, who you give her shit, she's going to excel at it. I mean, she's been working comedy matches in a tag team with Naomi, and people are enjoying the hell out of it because she's excellent and she's got great range and she knows how to do all sorts of character work, and that's great wrestlers are able to keep their momentum and to stay over with the fans. And I think it's a good sign that she's still really over. But yeah, I thought it was a smart finish. I thought it was a smart, honestly, a smart booking decision to capitalize on the heat with Nia, even though I do think it's a little odd, because a lot of times people are like, oh, she should be punished for this or that or whatever. And it was clearly a fucked up punch to the nose. I mean, no question about it. I mean, it was a total clean hit to Becky's clock. I mean, it was a totally brutal punch and pretty much uncalled for, I would say, from my point of view. Or at least it seemed that way. But I do think that it's kind of smart to keep the momentum going with Nia in this heat, and the heat she got tonight was excellent, and I think it's a good idea to keep that momentum going, and I think it was the right and the smartest finish tonight was to have Nia steal that win, and it also, and I thought it was a good idea to have her push Sasha off the top, because Sasha and Bayley were attacked on Raw, and they basically threatened Alexa and the other ladies, in the pre-show, and were like, after tonight we're going to kick your ass. So, I like to think that Alexa, probably told Nia to, finish Sasha off too. So there's that as well. I thought it was well booked, and keeping up with all these ladies, Nia, Becky, and Charlotte and Ronda all got spotlighted tonight. I mean, Becky was highly praised tonight all throughout the pre-show. Even though she wasn't there tonight, she was put over massively. And she's been killing it on social media, saying, talking all tons of great trash. And, what Nia did seemingly was, came off as unprofessional. I mean, I don't know how much of an accident it was or wasn't, but at the same time, smart move to keep this heat going and this momentum going, especially in the title match with Ronda coming up.
We'll talk about it more later on, but they've kind of got themselves in a predicament with all this too. Like I said, we'll talk about it later, because you have all this stuff going on. The problem is the heat's on separate shows.
Yep, that's a great point.
And I guess we'll get to it later on, but anyway, Raw now leads 1-0 because that pre-show match don't count. Amazing. So anyway, Stephanie told Baron Corbin backstage that if he wanted to be the full-time GM of Raw, they need to sweep the night. Which people in Georgia like, wait a minute, they've already lost one match. Well, again, remember that doesn't count. So we have that whole situation going on. Paige and Shane shows up, and they had the little deal. So it is what it is. All right, next match. Champion versus champion match, the first one of the night. Shinsuke Nakamura, U.S. champion against Intercontinental champion Seth Rollins. First time ever meeting, which is a theme of this show in some of these matches, and interesting match. Nakamura looked really weird wearing his shirt and whatever it was up under his shirt. So he had, I don't know what you would call it. It's not a jacket or anything, but it was some type of top. And
It's like,
again, I hate the shirts.
it's like his Blue Man Group outfit or something.
Yeah, I hate the shirts. Stupid. And so we had that, but this match was tedious, long, but it was a good match, and probably the best match Nakamura's been in recent matches lately. I know that for sure, which I think is also part of a testament to Seth Rollins and how great Seth Rollins is right now. Really strong match for what it was. Could have been better, yes. It'd been better if it was shorter. I would say that, but I think it delivered pretty much for what they were going for here. Rollins wins. Raw's now up 2-0. So I mean, this is a pretty easy match to pick, I think, because they got the Rollins and Ambrose deal. The only way I think Nakamura could have won is if Ambrose showed up and cost Rollins the match, but Ambrose doesn't even show up on the whole show. So, what are your thoughts on this match?
This was a good match. I think they delivered. I was expecting this to go 20 or 25 minutes going in, so I was expecting that. It definitely was a little boring in the first 10 or 15 minutes at times, for sure. There was definitely some boredom there for me. Nakamura wrestles like where he's always like trying for suplexes and like doing like the front face lock and stuff like that, like where he's like trying to like build to moves and stuff in like a very Japanese puro style in a lot of ways. I could be wrong, but I've noticed that. I remember him doing that in the Samoa Joe matches in NXT. I just don't think that stuff gets that over with American crowds. And I noticed that he's done that quite frequently. Like when he's trying to, fighting for a suplex and stuff like that, like in a really slow, methodical way. That's a very, to me, that's a very puro, type style, and that definitely, that's just kind of like a sort of a, I guess, a criticism I have of how Nakamura works. But I thought they picked it up towards the second half of the match and had some good near falls and some nice drama, and I thought the finish was really well done. So yeah, it was definitely a good match. Just a bit on the long side for sure, like you said.
Yeah, they that's that's been. I tweeted it out. I mean, this is the template for a lot of WWE big matches lately, though. It definitely NXT, but and NXT
Chris,
big
did I
shows,
lose
but
you?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Oh no!
Yeah, I had myself on mute because I had a little coughing spell. Yeah, so I'm here. But anyway, like I was saying on mute, this seems like the template, like I tweeted out, of WWE big matches lately on these shows. Is we're gonna have these long sections, and this is gonna be okay. Then we'll have this hot finish,
Right.
And NXT's done it a lot on takeovers, and it seems like WWE's doing a whole lot more. There's not a lot of back and forth going on during the middle, where people can kind of get lost. And you got to remember, we're in a different culture now than we've ever been in before. I mean, this is an ADD culture. You
Yes.
know, people lose interest really quickly in things. So I think that's the reason why long wrestling matches aren't nearly as popular as they once was. You know, and it's just a different time and different way of watching wrestling. And yeah, you can appreciate the them doing stuff, but sometimes you're doing stuff just for the sake of doing stuff too. And I'm not saying this match in particular. I'm just saying in general
Sure.
that there's a lot of that going on. There was a lot of that going on in NXT the night before, but
47-minute War Games match. God.
but yeah, I mean these two guys. I think they have another. I mean, again, they've never worked each other before. They've been on separate shows. They have. I don't think they've had any interaction. Period. So, I mean, this is this was a definite, different style of match. And I think if you've given a chance to have a rematch, they probably have an even better one. So, I don't know. We'll see maybe down the line that they hook up again. But it was a novel match, and it was really good. So, props to them. And Ron's great. He is so awesome right now. So, and that place was red hot for him when he came out too. No doubt, he had a lot of heat. All right, after this match, we have the Raw men's team backstage, where they were all talking their shit, and Braun was running down everybody. Best part, talking to Leo Rush, I don't even know you. And tell how much you hate everybody, and you got the Finn Balor says, I kind of like you. Going back to we're finally going back to the Braun and Finn little buddy stuff again. And you know what? It's good that they basically pretended that the Braun heel turn never happened.
Right.
Because it was stupid to begin with.
Yes.
So, that's of anything that came out of Roman Reigns' health issues, turning Braun back babyface was a definite plus. So, anyway, they had to deal with Corbin and all this other stuff. So it was what it was. All right. Next match is the champions versus champions in the tag team side here. SmackDown's champions, The Bar, with The Big Show, versus the Authors of Pain with Drake Maverick. The match was fine. I mean, it was a good match. Again, another match between guys who had never had any interaction with each other before. I think there's definitely a chance that if these guys wrestle again, and given a different circumstance, they'll probably have a hell of a damn match. I mean, Cesaro and Sheamus are amazing as a tag team and as workers in general. And AOP is starting to get better. They're starting to do more things, and they're starting to adapt, to what's going on. But this match had no chance for many reasons. Let's talk about it here. As the match was about to begin, during the section where they're talking to all the foreign announced teams, you hear this big ovation in the background. Well, on Twitter, early in the show, people had noticed on the broadcast that there was a guy sitting in the second row ringside, facing the hard camera, wearing a white hoodie and some type of hairpiece, and he looked exactly like Enzo Amore. Of course, Enzo's been in the news lately for being kicked off airplanes, for vaping, and all this other junk. So, as the Mandarin team is giving their little speech, this is when all this is going on. The crowd's going crazy. And I immediately knew exactly what it was then. I said, Enzo's just got exposed. So what happened was, this dumbass got on top of his chair, he took the hoodie off, revealed himself, and did his whole opening spiel that he used to do on television, standing on his chair to the fans. And some of the fans were into it, a lot of fans were not, because they don't like Enzo. So security comes down, and they Enzo kind of falls, and when he falls right in security. And what's funny is like the main security guard that took him out was the woman that almost stopped Gronk from hopping the rail at WrestleMania in Orlando last year, which that was hilarious. She was the one here, so that's tremendous. So anyway, the crowd's all up in the air about that. So these guys had no chance from the start. You had this dueling chants, we want Enzo, no we don't, that was going on. And finally everybody settled down, the match is going on. Alright, so now they're starting to build towards a finish. Big Show knocks down poor Drake Maverick, then lifts him up on the apron, and he's goozling him. And now I'm watching what's going on here. And I'm thinking, okay, Drake looks like he got something in his mouth. Are they going to do the deal where he's, going to bleed out of the mouth or do some stupid shit? Oh, no. Oh, no. They had Drake piss his pants. Yes. They had him piss his pants. And it wasn't a lot, but it was a trickle of water. And Cesaro and Sheamus were disgusted by this, and AOP used this as an opportunity to get the win. But
oh man,
I mean, if you here's the signs that Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn were running the ship here. Mandy Rose was getting significant amount of airtime, and we got humor like this: Drake Maverick pissing his pants. So there you go. But this is going to be something that's going to be remembered for a long time for poor Drake. And the guy, and here's the thing, the guy's been great. I mean, he's great on 205 Live. He's done a good job in the role he's done with AOP, just, being there at ringside. It's like, why? Why? This was so fucking unnecessary. So I can't wait to hear your thoughts on everything that happened. Enzo, this bullshit. I mean, what you got?
This match, I don't think was very good for a lot of because of the distractions. There was although there was that one spot where Cesaro was doing the swing and the other AOP guy jumped over the guy getting swung and knocked. Yes. And that was an incredibly dangerous spot that could have gone very badly.
AOP has both those guys are freaky athletes. Like I said, once they catch up to that, and as far as in ring, there's no telling what they can do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The match wasn't awful, but it was definitely hurt by a lot of distractions and the fact that I think the wrestlers knew that there was a lot of other stuff going on, so they just kind of went through the motions. But the Enzo stuff is just hilariously stupid. The security woman looked like she's about to beat his ass, which is pretty funny. And I hope she did. But that was just that wig or hairpiece he was wearing looked like what's his name, Mo from the Three Stooges, or not Mo, but is it Mo? Yeah. Whichever one has the ridiculous haircut.
Well, Mo has the bowl haircut.
Yes, Mo. Yes.
Yeah.
Then I was right. Yes. So that was definitely an interesting side plot to what was going on outside of the match. As far as the finish goes, the funniest part about that finish, other than the fact that it was stupid, was the fact that it wasn't. It was. They didn't even do a good job of him pissing his pants. It looked like when you go to the urinal and you don't shake it, and you get like one trickle down on your pants. Like,
I said a trickle. Yeah.
I mean, that's literally what it looked like. I mean, it didn't even look like he pissed his pants really. So that was even poorly done. But I mean, it was a stupid finish. It was bad for sure. I think for me, one of the worst parts was that, I mean, you got this guy who's putting over the cruiserweight division, cutting this great promo in the pre-show, and these fans who don't watch 205 Live every week are going to see this guy piss his pants. How can you take that show seriously? When the voice of 205 Live is pissing his pants. So I mean,
I know it.
I mean that was just so stupid. But yeah, this was definitely an interesting match. And a lot of the interesting things really had nothing to do with it, except for I guess the finish did. But yeah, this was definitely a match that was not highlighted much on the bar and AOP. Hopefully they get another encounter down the line. 'Cause I think those guys can do some great things together. But yeah, this match just wasn't it. There was too much other stuff going on for this match to stand out at all, I think.
Yeah, maybe they'll get a redo one of these days. Who knows? All right. So you mentioned 205 Live. So how do you follow the guy that runs 205 Live pissing his pants? You had those Cruiserweight Championship match from 205 Live. Naturally.
Yes.
Well, Buddy Murphy defending the Cruiserweight Championship against Mustafa Ali. Now, this was a match I was definitely looking forward to. I love 205 Live, watch it every week. The best week-to-week television show that WWE has, in my opinion. Delivers every week, just about. And I knew what these guys could do. A lot of the fans didn't, because they didn't give a shit. They did not give a shit, and just reading people there that were live, they were like chanting, "Who are these guys?" And all this other stuff. So they had a chore ahead of them to try and win this crowd over. Well, guess what? They did it.
Yep.
They did it, and Mustafa Ali is a complete insane madman. He takes bumps that no normal person would take, and he takes them, and then he's just right back up again. I mean the bump off the top into the barricade was rough. The bump off the top where he hits his face on the apron and falls to the floor. I thought, oh my god, and then he just bounced right back up. And then the Spanish fly off the in-the-house table into the mat. I mean, so many great spots in this match. Crowd even started chanting 205, and this is awesome. And it was just an amazing match. Murphy has become one of the best workers around, and it's amazing the transformation he's undergone this year, from being just a complete nobody to being the butt of the jokes about Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman and stuff like that. But the guy's coming to his own and has become a hell of a damn wrestler. And yeah, this was tremendous stuff. And Murphy retained the title. So at this point, this was the best match on the show. So what were your thoughts?
This was excellent. I was so happy to see this because I knew, to me, and I think you'll agree with me, Chris. I knew if these guys could get on the main show, right in the middle of this show, with a crowd like that, and have time, and they did, they'd get over, and they did. They had a great match, and they got over, and they had the best match on the card up to that point. It wasn't even close. They had, and really, in a lot of ways, if you've watched the series, and I know, Chris, you have, Ollie and Murphy have had a long series this year. They had a long feud back in the spring and into the summer. This was really just the greatest highlights of that feud, but it was still a great match. It wasn't even the best of their matches, but it was really just a best of hits match, but from their previous rivalry. But it was an excellent match. It was done to put 205 Live over, I think, and I think it was successful. Like you said, Ali is a complete madman. To me, the scariest bump he took was that first one when he gets pushed off and goes back first, shoulder first into the barricade. That's just frightening. There's, as JR used to say, there's no, well, he said there's no safe way to fall off a ladder, but there's no safe way to get pushed off, 10, 15 feet down on your. I mean, that guy's just a lunatic. This match was excellent. Buddy Murphy's awesome, and I'm very confident in saying that, for those who haven't seen these guys wrestle week to week, trust me when I say this, because WWE overall hasn't been that amazing in ring this year. Certainly not at all, really. But Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali are the best two in-ring wrestlers in 2018 WWE this year, in my opinion.
Hard to
They're
debate it.
the absolute best when it comes
Hard to
to
debate it.
bell to bell. And these guys delivered tonight, and I was happy to see that. And I don't think it's going to happen. And I think it's a pipe dream, and it's a bit of a fantasy dream in booking. But I really hope that tonight's match convinced Vince and Kevin Dunn or whoever to put the Cruiserweight title match back on the main show every month on the pay-per-views, and put it onto the card. Even if you get it, I mean, even if it's just on the pre-show. I mean, they've had one or two matches on the pre-show that have gotten over, but hopefully they can get these matches onto the main card sometimes again, and not just the big four shows. And because these guys deserve it, and the crowd ate it up and enjoyed it. So that's my hope, is in the future, even for TLC coming up next month. Hopefully we'll get it. We get a Buddy Murphy title defense on that show, because I think that they proved that they can get over with the main audience, and that was the number one thing that came out of that, is that they showed that because people have always said, well, these guys, they come out and nobody cares about them. And, back in 2016, 2017, they did have matches where nobody cared about them on the main shows because it was a different show. But now that the show that they have, you put these guys on these main shows, these main roster shows, they're going to excel, and they're going to get over. So this was a very pleasing match for me, definitely.
The one thing they got to do is they desperately do have to get some more people up.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Mike Bennett,
Mm-hmm.
Mike Kanellis is on there now, and they're going to do something with him, but they got to get some more names on there and mix these matches up, because, I mean, a lot of these guys have been on that show, and like you said, for the 2 years now,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
They have.
And they're still working each other. They got to get some new people on that show. Got to. So, who knows? Maybe somebody like Johnny Gargano. I mean, he would excel
Absolutely.
on that show. I mean, we need to get some new blood on there. We've been preaching that for a while, so maybe they'll do something. All right, yeah, hell of a match. Highly recommend it. Kayla Braxton gets Daniel Bryan backstage, and he has nothing to say. Now, as this was going on, Twitter was reporting that Enzo had been kicked out of the building, of course, and he had been tweeting and such like that. So it came out during the show that Staples Center has supposedly banned him from all future events in the building. So there you go.
Good.
There was your Enzo update. All right, next we get the men's Survivor Series match. Team Raw, featuring Braun Strowman. We had Dolph Ziggler. We had Drew McIntyre. We had Bobby Lashley. We had Finn Balor. Did I mention everybody? Yes,
Yep.
Finn Balor. Yes. And then SmackDown, we had Shane McMahon. We had Jeff Hardy. We had Rey Mysterio, The Miz, and Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe was very over. Los Angeles guy. Crowd was into him. So actually, he gets put out in 30 seconds by Drew McIntyre, which, hey, Drew McIntyre is getting the mega push, but Joe may have been the wrong guy to do that to at the beginning. I think we'll get your thoughts on that in a minute. So maybe it should have been somebody else. I don't know, but it was what it was. But the stories of this match was what was going on with Baron Corbin, because that Raw needed to win. He's outside as team captain, cheerleading him on. And Shane McMahon. Of course, Shane McMahon, one of the best in the world at the Crown Jewel show. in interesting circumstances. And now here he is here. The story is that he stole that and he's going to try to steal this. Miz, who he replaced at Crown Jewel, was really pumping Shane up full of sunshine. And during the match, he was tagging Shane in after Shane had gone through some shit. Because Shane did Shane stuff. Shane did the big elbow through the table, put Braun Strowman out, where Braun just laid there for about 15 minutes. And then he did the Van Terminator. And he hit the Van Terminator and on Ziggler the first time. So he's blown the death on that one. So Miz gets back in, does his thing. Then Miz tags him in again. Shane's about to have a heart attack. So Shane goes up for another one. And here comes Braun out of nowhere, just clubs him in midair and puts him down. And just hilarious. Hilarious how Shane McMahon also, and Jeff Hardy too. But Shane McMahon and Jeff Hardy, the two guys who weren't obligated to wear shirts. They had their gear on. But boy, this match, it was a hell of a match. It really was. Lots of great stuff going on. Definitely made you want to see Balor against Ray. Definitely made you want to see Drew against Ray. Definitely made you see Ray against Braun.
Right.
And then, there's a lot going on there. The story Raw guys are beating up on each other more than anything else too. That was a situation. But they got rid of the SmackDown guys. Braun got rid of Hardy, Ray, and Miz himself. And then Shane. So Braun eliminated 4 guys by himself to win the match. And while Drew and Bobby Lashley hung on the apron. And then they attacked Braun after the match with Corbin. So we got all that going on coming up. But because Stephanie promised that Braun could have Corbin. Which I think is going to play into the whole Corbin deal because if you remember, I said Stephanie told Corbin that he would have a better chance of becoming Raw General Manager if they swept the show. Well, not to go too far in spoiling what happens the rest of the show. They swept the show. So what I think is going to happen is, Corbin's going to be named the official General Manager, and then Braun's going to beat the holy hell out of him. And Corbin's going to have to take a time off, and then Kurt Angle's going to come back. Be the acting general manager.
Oh, I love it.
We're going to get it all over again. So, what's your thoughts on the match and everything else going on here with Corbin, Strowman, and all that shit?
I loved this. I absolutely loved this match. It was extremely entertaining.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed this. I could see if you don't follow it week to week or you're not into the characters or the storylines, I could actually see people not liking it at all. I really can. But for my money, I loved this a lot. Like, this was very entertaining. I was going crazy, just enjoying myself to the fullest. To start, McIntyre needed to eliminate somebody, and I think Joe was a good choice for him. McIntyre eliminating Ray and Jeff Hardy, I get that they're legends, but like, you know what I mean? Like, he's a big dude. It would make sense for him to take those guys out. Shane, he already destroyed Kurt Angle, so Shane and Angle are kind of the same thing to me in terms of, like, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of, like, beating up, like, the old, like, Clint Eastwood, authority figure. I'm laughing at myself for comparing Shane to Clint Eastwood, but
well, he's beating up the guys he's beating up the guys that stole the show King of the Ring 2001.
There you go. Yes, there you go. Yes, great shout out there. Yeah,
17 years ago.
Yeah, God Almighty.
I know.
But and Joe, yeah, he was very over, and the fans weren't pleased with that. But Joe is the new gatekeeper. He's the new Mark Henry. That is literally his role now. If you pay attention to the booking, that is his role. They had to legitimize him with a Lesnar feud. If you noticed in the Lesnar feud last summer, he got everything over on Brock until basically he basically dominated Brock in the match, until basically the F5 ended it. But so that was, that established Joe, and now, that was basically that feud was done to establish Joe as the gatekeeper of the company. That's sort of what I'm convinced as. As far as Joe,
And Joe might be the guy that Lars,
there you go. Yep,
gets
good,
with.
good shout out there too. I think that's a possibility. So I think Joe was the perfect guy for Drew McIntyre to eliminate, actually. And doing it early, I could see that being questionable. But I really thought it was a good booking decision. When Shane and Dolph got in there, and literally, Chris, they were shooting on each other. Like that's not a joke. Shane literally gave Dolph a shoot punch, and Dolph got pissed and drop kicked him in the face. That's literally what happened.
Yes, he did.
That's literally what happened. Then Shane shoot elbowed him in the face later. Like that. Like I was literally screaming and yelling and going nuts. Like it was hilarious and awesome at the same time. Like
I really think that Dolph took that shit seriously about, doing the job for Shane at Crown Jewel.
he might have.
I think he really was pissed. I think he was really pissed off about how that played out.
I mean, he clocked Shane with that drop kick early. My God, he clocked him. That's okay because Shane knows how to give receipts, and he clocked him later again with an elbow. So, I mean, that was amazing. Then the match totally broke down. I was totally into the Raw infighting because it all made sense. From the weeks leading up to the match. Ray was excellent in this match. He's been excellent since he's came back, but
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's Ray. Like you said, he's always a good guy to have in Survivor Series tags. One of the more underrated Survivor Series tag workers ever, actually. I mean, a lot of people love Ray, but you never really talk about how good he is in Survivor Series tags. But he's been in a lot of good ones and been great in all of them. And he was great tonight. The Finn Balor sequence was great. The Braun sequence where he was eliminated was great. Miz was amazing in this, like clearly using Shane as like a shield and as someone to try to take everybody out for like Miz was amazing in his character work, like totally being like a troll, like come on Shane, do another coast to coast, you can do it. Like, I mean,
oh yeah.
And then Braun taking Shane's head off. Of course, them taking Braun out early with the big elbow to the table was great. I mean, I enjoyed this match a ton. I do think it kind of ended on the thud at the end, although I think you have to build Braun up for the Brock rematch and down the line, which is I think what they did more than anything. But I do think it kind of ended on a thud a little bit. But at the same time, like I kind of wanted Shane to get like a victory or two before Braun finally took him out. But you got to protect McIntyre, and they've done a pretty good job of protecting Lashley lately. So I think you do have to protect those guys. And I'm more about protecting wrestlers like that than Shane McMahon, even though I am a Shane mark. So I was fine with the finish ultimately, although I do think momentum kind of got. The wind kind of got knocked out of the sails there a little bit, for the finish, because I still think the fans were pretty into babyface underdog Shane, even though that's pretty amusing. But Shane's just a guilty pleasure of mine, so I really enjoyed him in this match. I really, really, really enjoyed this. As far as the Braun Corbin stuff, I'm sure they'll have a match at TLC next month, and I mean, Braun says he mentioned he wants a stipulation, so obviously there's going to be a stipulation to that match. So I'm sure we'll find that out tomorrow or within the next week or so. But as far as I don't think we're done with Kurt Angle.
No,
but I do think it was interesting how decisive McIntyre beat him in the match. Maybe that was a way for Kurt Angle to not wrestle for a while. Although I think Kurt has looked in better shape this year than he did in 2017. Honestly, in terms of in-ring shape.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
He definitely has shown better. Yeah.
but yeah, I thought that was interesting. Maybe I don't I would never believe that because it's WWE and they love nostalgia acts, especially in terms of in-ring and matches. But maybe that was I don't really believe it, but maybe that's just a way for Kurt to stop wrestling altogether and just be back in the management role that he was in before. I mean, I don't know. That might seem, that definitely might seem like a misread, but like I said, I don't think they're done with Kurt, and I feel like they still need to do a Kurt Angle Baron Corbin match though, so maybe not. Like it's a weird situation. Um, Braun and Corbin is definitely going to be settled at TLC, I think. But I do think Kurt Angle is going to come back into the picture, and I feel like they got to do an Angle Corbin match. Maybe they'll do like Angle versus Corbin at WrestleMania or something. I don't know, but there's definitely something to that, and with it being the stipulation, I mean, obviously it's TLC, so you got to think their first guess would be something to do with tables, ladders, and chairs or stairs. Laugh out loud. But
Indeed.
but I think there's a chance, although Braun, there's a stipulation with Kurt Angle involved or something, so we'll see. Maybe Kurt's a special guest referee or something. I don't know, but that's definitely something to think about down the line, because that's definitely where Braun's headed as a stopgap to the Brock rematch. So Braun Corbin coming up, maybe with Kurt Angle involvement.
Yeah, maybe. And Drew's definitely got the rocket on
Oh
him.
yes.
They definitely gonna do something with him.
Oh yes.
Who knows? Maybe he'll be the one to beat Brock. Who
Maybe.
knows? Somebody's going to do it.
Yep.
So I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, strong match. All right. Then Seth's interviewed by Charlie Caruso, and she tells him that he will be having Dean Ambrose at TLC. So that's got to be the TLC match. I got to think. Would you think that's going to be the full shebang?
I would think so. They've never had a one-on-one TLC. They've had the 2014. They had the Lumberjack, the Falls Count Anywhere, and the Hell in Cell. And they had the straight up ladder match in 2015, but they've never had the TLC. I think you might be right on that, Chris. I think that's what we might get there is the TLC with Dean and Seth for the IC belt for sure. I think there's a good possibility of that.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, next we have the last two matches. Champion versus champion replacement. Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. Of course, Becky Lynch supposed to be in the match, and her broken face prevented her from that. So she had picked Charlotte to take her spot in a weird little deal on SmackDown where she hugged Charlotte after their feud of hatred for the past couple of months. But it was what it was, and the crowd was very interesting here. The crowd was extremely pro Becky, so they were cheering Charlotte. And Ronda comes out, and it's Los Angeles. Ronda Rousey, you think, man, she should be getting the mega pop. No, she had heat.
Mm-hmm.
They were booing her, and a lot of people that was in the building were talking about how loud the boos were for her. But if you watched it on television, you didn't know that was that loud. I mean, you heard them, but you didn't know it was that loud. So it come off as somebody was playing around on the production side of things. They were missing some sound there, or whatever. But we get the match. Ronda's wearing a different type of look. She's got red gear with claw marks or whatever, like the Davey Richards old shit that Davey Richards would have on. Like the wolf was clawing through her tights, and she had that hideous face that makeup around the eyes again. She likes that, so whatever. Anyway, this match was wild. I mean, again, like I said earlier, I said the women, in Survivor Series matches, women had their own way of doing things, pretty much. They come out there and they just beat the shit out of each other. I mean, you watch this match at times and you're running and you think to yourself, like, do these people, do they know this is a work? Because you see them and they're just laying these shots in. Charlotte busts Ronda open in the mouth with an elbow, on the mat, and then, I mean, it's just crazy. And they're doing all kinds of shit. Ronda, it's so interesting watching Ronda matches. I mean, every reaction show we've done that she's been a part of, we've both been just like blown away at how good she is for her short period of time. And this is another one of those moments, man. She was amazing in this match. And Charlotte fed off of everything. And this is like the most inspired Charlotte's been in a long time. I mean, she definitely brought her A game tonight too. And you could tell where their position is that Ronda's the babyface and Charlotte's the heel in this match. Just like they think Becky's the heel. So that's the way they positioned all this stuff, but the fans don't give a fuck about their position.
No.
They were going ape shit for Charlotte. So then we had the finish where Ronda, almost has Charlotte. And Charlotte gets out of the ring and she gets the kendo stick and she just starts beating the shit out of Ronda. And they call for the DQ. So we got a DQ finish, which, it works because you didn't have DQ finishes in any of the matches before it.
Right.
You see what happens when you protect the finish? When you protect the screw job finish instead of running it just about every fucking match, like some wrestling promoters have done in the past and still do. So Charlotte just starts laying the shots in on her. This was crazy. The crowd was just volcanic for this shit, chanting for Charlotte. Thank you, Charlotte, and all this other stuff. They did a deal where Charlotte was beating up the referees. She put the chair around Ronda's head and neck, and then did a stomp on it while they were chanting "Thank you, Charlotte." The fan, and here's the thing though, they were doing this big deal for Ronda to really have the fans feel sorry for her, have sympathy for her, but it didn't work. It was the exact opposite. And they were chanting "You deserve it" and all this other stuff. And some people think that Ronda was legitimately upset by all this, and she may have been. I don't know. But the thing is, they did the chair around the neck. Charlotte does the deal where she drops a knee on it, if I'm not mistaken, and it's supposed to have a serious injury. And the referees and doctors and they're checking on Ronda, such, and she eventually walks out on her own power, which I thought was interesting. Normally, you at least have somebody help the person out, but they let her walk on her own power. And your brother Dylan mentioned on Twitter that he thought that worked with Ronda more than with anybody else, basically because of how they push her. But I don't know. I mean, I still think they should have had some type of deal where she's showing something. She's having to be helped, at least by put their arms around her, or whatever. And yeah, and when she got to the stage and the crowd was just really in on her, you could tell that she kind of was disappointed, maybe, all that stuff. So now we're here at this situation. All right, this is an obvious feud that we have built in because Ronda has her horsewomen with Shayna Baszler, Jessamine Duke, Marina Shafir, and Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, Bayley on that side. So you have a ready-made angle here now. It's still too early for Jessamine and Marina and even Shayna to be part of the show. But if you do this angle, you got to switch it here. I mean, I think you got to switch Ronda heel, and because the fans are healing on her, and so that's the problem that I was mentioning earlier. You got the deal where you got these two mega babyfaces now on SmackDown, and Charlotte and Becky, even though they're supposed to be heels, and you got these two mega heels now on Raw, where one's supposed to be babyface and Ronda, and you got Nia, who is a heel. There's no heat the heat is on separate shows. And Raw, at least Raw has women that are defined on both sides. SmackDown's heel side is pretty much non-existent, except for, Peyton and Billy, because Lana is now a babyface, Naomi's babyface. Charlotte and Becky have no chance but being babyfaces. Carmella's babyface, Asuka's babyface. So it's like, they're going to have to do something here somebody's have to switch. Or it's just going to be, what do you do? How do you maintain it with these women, man? Because, and Ronda and Nia is coming up, and that has potential. Everybody talks about, Lesnar Goldberg or WrestleMania, how the crowd would shit on a match. The crowd could really shit on this one. If they're going to start getting on Ronda and being against her, which who knows? It could have been just the way it was. But if they take that attitude in that match where they're both just booing both women, that could be a bad scene. So, what's your thoughts on all this and where we're going in the match and everything?
The match was tremendous, absolutely great. They absolutely tore into each other. The best Charlotte Flair performance. Charlotte was very good at Evolution, to be fair, but I thought she was even better tonight. She was just absolutely amazing. Best she's looked since probably the Sasha feud in 2016. She was just amazing tonight. They were just they were like in a legitimate fight. Felt the busted open, the elbow to the mouth was nasty. She did that forearm right out of the gate. That was just brutal. Like, that was a full on forearm that I actually think bruised up Ronda's eye a little bit. If you notice, like right out of the gate. I think Ronda told her to lay it in, probably, and because I'm pretty sure they practice these matches, and I bet Ronda just told her to friggin' lay it in, man, because Charlotte was just beating the living crap out of her, and it was awesome, and Ronda was playing it smart, just trying to work that arm, and Charlotte was tremendous, desperately trying to get out of that, and there were so many great spots in this. The spot where Ronda made her first big comeback, and then Charlotte just speared her to hell. And then there was the part where Ronda started to throw her strikes, and Charlotte blocked them all, and then just completely lit up Ronda's chest. Ronda's chest was purple. Charlotte was just lighting her chest up with chops. And then they did the great figure four spot. And I thought they did a great job with Ronda desperately fighting out of the figure eight and turning it over. Like, this was a complete total fight. They had desperation. Like, this was an absolutely tremendous match, just absolutely tremendous. I would definitely want to see a rematch between these two for sure. Great match. The post match, the finish was great. I think it was smart. The finish was. The post-match was, I didn't expect to see that. I was and it was pretty intense stuff. Just Charlotte was just beating the living daylights out of Ronda with the kendo stick. The chair knee spot. The crowd going crazy for Charlotte and doing all those chants, and Ronda's like, Ronda's, she seemed really dejected, up there on the stage. As far as her walking out, I'm actually with Dylan here. I think because it's Ronda, I can get that, and I think she played the emotion right, and I think because she had so many visible scars and bruises on her body, you know what I mean? That I think the visual was enough to show that she got her fucking ass beat. Like, I mean, I sympathize and understand your point, and I think it would have been perfectly fine to have people help her out too. But at the same time, Ronda coming out and walking out, I'm perfectly fine with, because it is Ronda. Um, they're in a really interesting situation right now because Charlotte's back to being probably going to be pretty over again. You know, she's got a lot of momentum now. Becky's got a ton of momentum. They've really got to keep Becky on TV. She's still got the belt. If I were them, I'd just have her show up and cut promos and be a badass, and you know what I mean? Like, basically book her like Austin in '97. Um, you've got Nia, who's got the molten heat from the now, controversial, infamous punch. You've got Ronda, who's basically bulletproof in terms of how she's booked. You've got these four big stars, but they're all on separate shows, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle this stuff. Ronda Nia is now in the foreground. That's coming up next month at TLC. I'm going to be interested to see if they put a stipulation on that match. I'll be interested to see if they make it a chairs match or a ladder match or something.
Well, the thing is that how are they going to handle these injuries? Because I mean, are they going to use this to be the way that Ronda loses the title?
That's a very good point. I've seen,
and put the title on Nia.
Yeah, I saw some people bring that up. That's a very good point. I think that there's a lot of things that you can sort of draw from this angle tonight. That this was a setup for a Ronda Charlotte rematch at WrestleMania, and that Nia is going to win the belt on Raw because of this, and that Becky's going to chase Nia and beat her at WrestleMania, or at least wrestle her at WrestleMania, and then Charlotte's somehow going to get I guess the SmackDown belt, and Ronda's or something. I don't know, or
we can have a multi.
Right, exactly. There could be a multi-woman match as well. That's very possible, because you have to remember that there's still the tie-in with Becky and Charlotte. So there's Ronda and Nia, of course, and now Nia and Becky have a tie-in. So there could be even as much as a four-way. That's not out of the realm of possibility with how WWE books WrestleMania matches and multi-mans on that show. So this is, I'll give them the credit in the sense that they've got four female wrestlers who are very who've got a lot of momentum going right now. You brought up the 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen deal. Now, this is possibly a coincidence and probably even one, but if you pay attention, going back to the women's tag match, Bayley and Sasha were protected in that match. They were protected, both of them were. If you noticed, Bayley was the one who hit Sonya with the belly to belly, and she just got counted out. That's, she was protected. Sasha looked like she might have been able to get rid of Asuka. She got pushed off the apron. She was protected. They protected, and Becky, I think, was being pushed and put over so much, even with the injury this past week. All four NXT horsewomen were protected this week, and tonight, and that is possibly a coincidence, but I think that that's something worth keeping an eye on. And Marina and Jessamine are definitely going to be, consistent presences on NXT TV going forward.
Because it looks like we're going to have a 6-woman match coming off a takeover with Kyrie in EO and
Dakota Kai.
Dakota Kai.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's something to keep an eye on. I think that's always kind of been the fantasy booking kind of pipe dream deal.
Oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's just a question of when.
I think you're right. Dave Meltzer, we joke on Dave. He's always saying it's going to happen next month. You know how Dave is. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's something worth keeping an eye out on. I think we'll have to hold out on Shayna and the other girls coming up until probably after WrestleMania. I mean, I would think
Or they could be part of the women's
they
rumble.
could be that's a
And,
that's a strong possibility. I mean, that's a pretty big show. Rumble is every year, but in that environment, in that arena, they're going to try to make something big happen there. So that's something to keep it to keep in mind. I mean, there's a lot of directions they could go with this. Some people think it was just Bailey basically hired Charlotte as a hitman, and Charlotte's been frustrated because she's not the champion, so she just took out her anger and beat the hell out of Ronda as like a hitman kind of deal. I mean, there's a lot of ways they could go with this. Really, in the end, Chris, I think that this kind of shows that the women's division is the hottest part of the WWE product right now. Um,
yeah, well, it pretty much has been though.
pretty much, pretty much. It's the best thing going right now, at least on the main roster. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but it's really
I agree.
it's and they've done a pretty good job. At least with these four ladies the last couple of weeks. Charlotte, Nia, even before the punch, Nia was getting protected. Winning the battle royal at Evolution. And Becky and Ronda. So I mean, there's a lot of options and scenarios that could happen, and I'm just going to let it play out. But I'm definitely excited and interested to see where they go with it all.
Oh yeah. So a lot of interesting things ahead in the women's division on both shows, no doubt. All right, then we have our main event: champion versus champion, Universal Champion Brock Lesnar against WWE World Champion Daniel Bryan. Yes, who beat AJ Styles on SmackDown Tuesday. So no AJ on this show at all. I kind of thought maybe he would get involved in this match, but nope, he wasn't on the show. So Bryan is a heel. He even his intro or supposed to do the yes chants, he starts to do it and then stops, and the crowd was reacting to him as a heel mainly during his entrance. So they know the deal. But Brock Lesnar is going to be a heel no matter what. I mean, that's just Brock. So Daniel's basically babyface this match. Now, I was watching people on Twitter, and I think a lot of people just seem to forget how a lot of the Brock Lesnar matches go. And because Brock came out after Bryan played this cat and mouse game with him, which lasted a little bit. It was pretty funny. Still trying to keep away. But Brock finally got him. And boy, did he drop him on the first German suplex. Well, obviously, Bryan was fine. But man, that looked rough. And then he just kept on pounding him. And this is a template we've seen before where Brock would just beat the hell out of dudes for a little bit and then finally make their comeback. And that's what we got here. I was waiting on saying anything on Twitter because I had a feeling what was going to happen. I knew that they were not going to have Brock steamroll Bryan, especially not after he just won the belt and they're doing this thing with him. I just knew that this wasn't going to happen like that. Well, Bryan made his big comeback, and boy did he! He took it to Brock. He gave him everything he had, and the crowd was into him again, and it just, it seemed like he was going to make Brock tap out. Well, it never happened. Brock eventually got this big time F5 on him and put him down. He got the 1, 2, 3. And that was it. And then the main thing they were showing on Bryan after the match was he was getting back up to his feet and he was smiling. And for various reasons, I mean, you could definitely tell that Bryan was loving this because Bryan has talked about working Brock Lesnar for years. So he finally got his match. I'm sure he was. I mean, like I said, he was very happy. But it plays into his little smug gimmick he's got going on now too. And he did his nut shot in this match as well, like he did AJ to win the belt. But but yeah, I mean, considering what the deal was, I mean, Brock was not going to job, folks. I mean, if you thought that, then you're wrong because they're just not going to job him. So there had to be some type of interesting finish, and the finish that we got was so Brock goes out on top. Brian's basically almost laughing in the show. So, what's your thoughts on how this turned out?
The match was tremendous. Just like an awesome match. It was worked very similar to the AJ match that last year. But the difference is, AJ was sort of using his high flying based offense and stuff like that. He was attacking Brock's like some of that match, but Brian was a little bit more violent on his offense. Although he was using the high flying tactics. The early stuff with Brian mocking Brock's dancing and stuff was funny, and the first German was horrifying and really uncomfortable to watch, actually. Um, and then the whole deal where it was clearly done on purpose, where Brock yelled out Suplex City to get a Suplex City chant going, and the fans standing same old shit. It was done as a way because they know the fans were going to react that way, so they did that on purpose to set up the Brian comeback, which was well done. And if Brian wasn't going to win on a low blow, he wasn't going to win at all. So when I saw that, I admittedly bit on the low blow near fall, but once that happened, I said, okay, now I'm just waiting for the next F5. And what kept me in the match is when I kept thinking Brock was going to hit the F5, Brian would counter it and do something else. And so, that was really well done. They built to the second F5 really, really well. The most satisfying image and moment as someone who has pure hatred for Brock Lesnar was when Daniel Bryan curb stomped Brock in the face full force and left his footprint on his face. That was as a petty angry fan, that was satisfying to see, although absolutely brutal. Because literally Daniel Bryan's footprint was on Brock Lesnar's face for the rest of the match. But so Brock let Brian lay it in big time. And I bet Brock was hurting from that a little bit, honestly. That curb stomp was pretty brutal. Brock collapsing under one of those F5 attempts and Brian putting in the guest lock, that was all extremely well done. Brock teasing tap out was well done. I mean, it was a great match. It was obvious in the post match and on commentary throughout the match and after the match that the idea was that like this match wasn't about Brock Lesnar. It was about Daniel Bryan and the way he changed. I think it worked to a degree, but at the same time, I don't think it worked as well as they thought it would because he didn't win the match. Now, look, Brock wasn't going to lose. You're right. But if you want that Daniel Bryan character change to really work, you got to have him win the match to me, full on. And I think at the end, fans were just more like, well, he lost, so who cares? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, even though we all know Brock's going to win, it's still like, in the moment, you think Bryan might have a chance, or you get really behind Bryan, and then he just doesn't win. And, like, you could tell, like, even Brock and Heyman were doing the whole deal where they were, like, kind of, like, nodding their head in approval or, like, kind of, like, laughing. I'm like, man, this Bryan guy's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Like, but so they were definitely trying to do that, and I think in theory it works, but I don't think it really works in execution if Bryan doesn't win the match. I mean, hell, you could have Bryan just, make a comeback and then low blow Brock later, and then Brock wins by DQ. You know what I mean? Like, I just, in terms of getting this new Daniel Bryan character changeover fully, I think that they did get it over to a degree. Don't get me wrong. But in terms of being able to get it over fully, I don't think that they accomplished that because at the end of the day, Brock's not going to lie down. So to me, I really don't think it was the right time to do this. I don't think it was the right time to do this at all. I think I read somewhere that I think it might have been like a cage side seat rumor roundup or something that, Bryan was they were planning on Bryan winning the belt on Tuesday all along because Vince didn't want AJ to lose the belt 2 years or lose twice in a row. But they moved the heel turn up to just create intrigue for the show, and that the heel turn wasn't supposed to happen until later. So maybe it was supposed to happen at TLC, and then you know what I mean, and then they just moved the heel turn up to try to create intrigue after the Becky injury. And I think it would have worked more if Bryan was a babyface and was sort of laughing as like a setup for the later heel turn. But I think they just sort of panicked after the Becky injury and or possibly move the heel turn up, at least from a rumor. I mean, rumors are rumors. And then I don't really think it worked out that way. I mean, that's really my main criticism of the match. I'm not even that mad that Brock won. I mean, I'm never happy that Brock wins, but I was just glad to see a great match. But all in all, I think the match was great, and I'm looking forward to Bryan as a smug heel. I think he's a terrific heel. But I just thought it was kind of looking at all the booking in terms of trying to get the new Bryan character over. I just don't think it was really the right time to do that. It was with Bulletproof, I don't want to lie down Brock. It's kind of hard to do stuff like that. I don't know. But otherwise, it was a great match. Still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting situation, It's definitely interesting to see where we go from here. All right, so what are your thoughts on the show altogether? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle?
I'd say thumbs up. I think it was not a high thumbs up, but right at about where the thumb turns up. I thought the first half was kind of a stinker, but in some ways. But yeah, the second half of the show was really good. Several great matches, big angles, some strong character development, and things to look forward to going forward. And I think that's a success. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, for a show that basically, in many ways, is like thrown together like duct tape. I mean, with duct tape. They made it work. And it was definitely one of the most entertaining pay-per-views I've had this year. And coming off Evolution, which was in its own right an amazing show, and probably the best main pay-per-view they've done. I mean, for this year, I mean, having this happen, right after, that's very good. TLC is going to be what it is, with the gimmicks, but it's encouraging, especially with television. Sometimes not always being the best, and recently, but we got to take consideration too. I mean, we're not far away from Mania season, so we could have an early start to Mania season. With this stuff going on, you start building up to what's going to happen at the Royal Rumble and so on and so forth. So,
oh yes, they'll
they got a lot of.
They'll have the build to TLC, and then there's definitely going to be some stuff that I think they're already teasing stuff for WrestleMania now.
Yeah.
They'll have their holiday week, like they always do in USA, after TLC, and that'll be sort of, you know what I mean? Yeah, they'll have a few big matches for that, but it'll be sort of a relaxing week, and then after that, they're going to go full on, Rumble build. So, I mean, we're close.
Yeah. So, interesting times ahead for WWE. All right, that's it for us. We will be back with TLC in another month. So, for Kris and for Devon, we'd like to thank you for listening and come back. So, thanks, and we are out of here.